And welcome everyone to our weekly discussion of the Power 36 and the AP poll. And we're going to take some questions here momentarily. As you can see, on one side you get your Power 36, on the other side you get your AP poll here on Monday, February 4th. You can check out the Power 36 on ncaa.com and all our March Madness social media sites. Our team of the week, the Iowa Hawkeyes, after their resounding win over Iowa. Player of the week, Makai Mason from Baylor, after he dropped 40 and 9 threes on TCU in a very, very impressive victory over the weekend. Later this week, I'm going to have a discussion with the selection committee going over the net as they are meeting in Indianapolis. I will actually be at Michigan, Wisconsin on Saturday. That's the rematch of a game that was won by Wisconsin and Madison. Certainly some interesting highlights over the past week. Michigan lost that game at Iowa. Michigan State lost at home to Indiana in overtime. That's why you see some of the teams dropping in my poll, which I'll address here. My top 6 essentially didn't change in terms of teams that have been playing consistently well. Tennessee, Duke, Gonzaga, Virginia, Kentucky, Nevada. I would add Villanova to that, undefeated in the Big East. Michigan State losing in overtime at home. Purdue jumped all the way up to 9 for me with the way they're playing. They are number 15 in the AP poll, yet they are tied with Michigan and Michigan State. So this is interesting. I've already heard from some Michigan people here. Michigan 7 in both polls. I dropped Michigan to 11. That is based on this week. I know they knocked off Ohio State, the triple-double from Xavier Simpson. That game was at home. But they got just hammered by Iowa on Friday night. Tough road place to play. Michigan, I think, will bounce back in this rematch game against Wisconsin on Saturday. It'll be very interesting how they handle that. But they've had some close calls lately. And I think that's legitimate to knock them down a couple of pegs based on the way they're playing of late and the manner in which they lost. If you compare that to the way Michigan State lost in overtime to Indiana versus Michigan getting handled at Iowa. Houston's been rather consistent. They're 10 in mine, 12 in the AP. Marquette, 12 mine, jumped up to 10 in the AP poll. They got a huge week. They host St. John's and host Villanova. So we'll know if the Golden Eagles are going to be a legitimate Big East title contender, certainly by the end of this week. Baylor at 18 in my poll. Where are the Baylor Bears in the AP poll? I do not see the Baylor Bears in the AP poll. That doesn't seem plausible. Baylor is tied for first in the Big 12. How are they not in the AP poll? Makes zero sense. While the AP was still very good to Buffalo, I moved Buffalo down to 31, not dropping them out after losing at Bowling Green. I'm respecting those losses in the MAC. So on one side, you could say the AP poll gave a lot more love to schools outside the Power 6 conferences. On the other side, one within in Baylor, they did not. Unless I'm just seeing things, I don't see Baylor in this poll. You see Wisconsin, we agree with for the most part, in the teens. Louisville in the teens. North Carolina, top 10 for them. North Carolina right outside for me. Washington. Where is Washington in the AP poll? I don't see Washington in the AP poll. Once again, I don't get it. Washington 14 in mine. Undefeated in the Pac-12. Are these people watching? They're not watching. Mississippi State with a good win over Ole Miss, not in there. Iowa and Iowa State, they both are. Iowa State much higher than Iowa. Not sure I agree with that. Syracuse on the cusp. Maryland both in. Cincinnati both in. Outside of that, I didn't give up yet on Maryland, Minnesota, Florida State, which is back in. A little too high for my liking in the AP poll. Texas Tech, Auburn, Belmont, giving some love to the OVC. They're playing great. Arizona State with a win over Arizona. I got them back in. And Lipscomb, they took down Liberty in the big A-Sun matchup. So giving Lipscomb some love. All right, so let's take some of your questions right now. Let's see here. Pac-12 more like, just dissing the Pac-12. Look, Washington is right now the class of the Pac-12, undefeated. Arizona State, I think at the end of the day, even though they're not second in the standings, I think will ultimately be second place. They've got the best non-conference win with their win over Kansas. Can they get 3 teams in? Not necessarily. Not a big believer in that. Oregon State, by the way, is in second place right now. I don't know if they'll hold that position necessarily. Ricky Paul wants to know, how far do I think Duke will go? I would say right now they got a great shot to win the national championship. That's for sure. I could definitely see that. And, they're playing some of the best basketball in the country. Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones, all healthy. They're getting great role play. I was there last Thursday. You'll see my conversations coming up probably in the next couple of weeks with Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett, and then a sit-down I had with Trey Jones. On the podcast, you will be hearing from Coach K. I had a sit-down with Coach K, and one with Dean Wade of Kansas State as the Wildcats, which, by the way, where are the Wildcats here? The Wildcats are 21 in mine. Once again, I disagree. No Wildcats there. How far do I think Kansas will go? Asks, the name flew by, I'm sorry. I still lean on them to win the Big 12, but ultimately I would say that, there's a good chance that they will probably be a Sweet 16 team, maybe, because of Dedrick Lawson, but I don't see them getting to the Final Four. I'm sorry. Their front court right now is just too beat up. Do I think Kentucky could beat Tennessee? Asks Nelson. I would say that there's a good chance they're going to split. And then it comes down, I think they're clearly the 2 best teams in the SEC and 2 of the best in the country. And then maybe we see them match up in the SEC tournament final, which would be great. Thoughts on Nevada, asks Phil. We both have them in 6, AP and Power 6. Caleb Martin had 30 in their win over Boise State. There are 2 games left I see Nevada possibly losing, at San Diego State and at Utah State, and that might be it. William, Q's Final Four, what do I think? Don't see that, but I think they'll be comfortably a team in the field with a potential single-digit seed and a chance to get back to the Sweet 16. Gage says Baylor will win the Big 12. They might. I mean, they're playing great right now. I think it's Baylor, K-State, Baylor, K-State, Iowa State are the challengers for Kansas. So they might, which would be an unbelievable story. And Scott Drew is right now the coach of the year in the Big 12. Phenomenal. Can LSU make the Sweet 16, asks Joe. Tough loss at home to Arkansas. They have the combination of Tremont Waters, who I think had 36-38. So they've got a great shot to, with him and Naz Reid, they've got that inside-out combo. So, yeah, they definitely could. They definitely could be a Sweet 16 team. All right, let's check out some more. John wants to know, is it too late for Indiana to make the tournament? Not at all. They've got more home games than road. I think it's a 5-3 split down the stretch. The win at Michigan State is a win maybe no one else gets. They've still got the bankable wins early in the season, notably over Marquette. So I think they're actually in a good position. If they don't have another losing skid, I think they're going to be in. I do. Keenan wants to know, has Gonzaga found their identity? Well, they've been a much better defensive team since that North Carolina loss. They're healthy. They're scoring. Brandon Clark is a beast inside. They're a legitimate title contender. Tyler Murrell says, if UK plays Tennessee, who's going to win in the SEC tournament game? Well, let's see how they're playing then. I mean, right now I think I got Tennessee 1, so I'd lean Tennessee, but we'll see. Tim wants to know, Will Kentucky get a 1 or 2 seed and be placed in the Louisville region? I'd say right now Kentucky's a 2. That's where I've got them in my next bracket. Oh, by the way, there's going to be a bracket next Saturday afternoon after the top 16 reveal by the selection committee. I think Kentucky will be a 2, and if they're a 2, they'll be in Louisville. I can see that for sure. Louis says, I'm not bright because I have Nova over Michigan and Michigan State. Louis Miller, let me explain something to you. This is not about head-to-head, okay, when games are played in November. I don't eliminate those from discussion, but the polling is about who's playing well right now. That's the snapshot. Okay, the seeding is more the body of the work. That's where Michigan's win over Villanova will help Michigan more than obviously Villanova. This is not about the bracketing right now. In the bracketing, Michigan is seeded higher than Villanova, and Michigan State seeded higher than Villanova in the bracketing. So I say this every week. It's not that hard to understand. The poll, whether it's AP, my poll, and the Power 36, are based on how you're playing right now. The bracket is a projection of how the selection committee will put them in the bracket and how they will seed them. That's a big difference in comparison, okay? So, all right, that's the difference, okay? On the converse here, Hunter says, how is Michigan State so high? They got smacked by Iowa at home. I think you mean Michigan. Wisconsin beat Iowa by 10 a couple weeks ago. Look, I've got Michigan 11, so I felt very comfortable about that. Thoughts on UVA, considering the last 2 games were a little sloppy, uncharacteristic. Alfred Kim says, well, I just saw Tony Bennett gave an update on Ty Jerome's back injury, said he's doing better. Game Saturday against Duke. Let's hope that Ty Jerome comes back so we get 2 teams at full strength. That's what we want to see on Saturday in Charlottesville. That certainly would be the game that everyone, I think, wants to see. Steven says, what's my most disappointing team so far? It's a good question. Most disappointing team so far. Going league by league here. Oh, boy. I put St. Louis in that group out of the A-10. I would put, I'm trying to think in the Big 12. I don't know if I'd have anyone in that group. Pac-12, obviously I thought UCLA would be much better and not think there'd be a coaching change. USC I thought would be a lot better. Oregon had lost Bobo, but I thought they would be obviously much more consistent. I don't know, I got to think about that. Michael says Chris Mack is Coach of the Year hands down. Maybe Coach of the Year in the ACC. I don't think he's the National Coach of the Year. Joe says Providence is disappointing in the Big East. Well, AJ Reeves didn't play for a large chunk of those games and set them back. Kansas, says Adam, I don't know if you're including him in that question, but without Udoka Azubuike, it's hard to put them there. Clemson, most disappointing. I don't know. I don't know how high I thought they were going to be. Let's see here. Do I think Oregon without injuries could have been a top 25 team? Yes. Bobo was that kind of difference maker. Where do I see Purdue in the tournament? Asks Rob. Well, they're climbing up steadily. I mean, their seed right now is very tough to predict. But they're a team that certainly could get to the Sweet 16. I know it's probably put like 20 teams in the Sweet 16. What's wrong with Kansas, asks Adam. Well, their inside game is completely lacking depth, size. It's hard to say that they've been disappointing when they haven't been healthy. Grant Williams, Player of the Year. Yeah, he's right there with Zion Williamson for National Player of the Year. Jacob, will Texas make the tournament? I think, yes, they will, in large part because of the rest of the country. John says Arizona State's been disappointing. I said they've been disappointing within the season because I thought there was going to be a little bit of rebuilding. Then they beat Kansas, so now they've exceeded. Then they come back to earth. Wisconsin Purdue, who wins right now, what was an overtime game in West Lafayette. In Madison. I think it's a toss-up regardless wherever they play. Las Vegas Daily Winners wants to know when UNLV, and I saw your comment about Coronado. Was that high school? So great that we had a good conversation back then. UNLV back to their glory days. Not back to those days. Can they be competitive in the Mountain West Conference? Certainly. And they should be. And we'll see what happens in Nevada when they lose these seniors. Why do they keep putting Kentucky and Duke in the same region or side of the bracket? Asked Connor. Well, a lot of that is the bracketing principles, unfortunately, where you can put teams, conference affiliation, can't meet early in the tournament, who's closer to which region, is there a first round rematch? So a lot of those things end up forcing teams to be in the same region. It'd be nice if they weren't this year. Craig says Wojciechowski is the coach of the year in the Big East. He certainly may be, depending on what happens with their Villanova game on Saturday. And then Jay Wright, if Villanova wins the Big East this year, he's the Big East coach of the year, no question. Daniel, who's my 1 and 2 seeds? Where will I put Gonzaga? Right now, Gonzaga is well, let's see where we're going to put them this weekend. I think they're high 2. They might be on the 1 line. We gotta assess this. If they're either the 4th 1 or the first 2. Tennessee, Duke, and Virginia. Heading into the Virginia-Duke game, I think will be 3-1s. And then we'll have to peel it back about Gonzaga, Kentucky. Let's see what Michigan State do this week, but I would think it could end up being it could be Gonzaga again. All right, let's see here. Too early to say where I have Iowa now. The seeding for Kansas, Amelia, is going to be very interesting because they are a team that's got great wins. They've struggled in the league a little bit for them, but you can't take away those wins. That's the difference for Kansas and why I think they'll still have a better seed than maybe even their record. Brandon wants to know Cincinnati has a chance at a 5. They do. Wait for their big matchup against Houston. Bill wants to know how much Langford's injury affects Michigan State. Well, I think we saw on Saturday, offensively, there are going to be times when it definitely affects Michigan State. So in the long term, it's going to have an effect. Christian wants to ask about K-State. Well, I'm going to be talking to Dean Wayne here momentarily. He'll be on my podcast. You can listen to that. Matt Painter, Coach of the Year candidate. I would agree with that. And I think in the Big Ten, if they end up finishing where they finished, then he will be. Jamie wants to know thoughts on Nebraska. Well, I just talked to Tim Miles, actually. Their schedule benefits them where I think they actually still could make it. Got some home games they can win. No Isaac Copeland. They know who they are now. I wouldn't dismiss them yet. So there still could be 10 out of the Big Ten. All right, we're going to end with Drake Embry's question of who's my national champion today. I pick Gonzaga. I'm going to stay with the Zags, even though I easily could go with Tennessee or Duke right now, or even Virginia. But I'm sticking with the Zags right now as the national champs. All right, so quick reminder in terms of what we have coming. March Madness 365 podcast. Head coach Mike Krzyzewski of Duke, the Hall of Famer, is my guest, along with K-State's Dean Wade. That'll be posted midnight Pacific time tonight, Monday night, for everyone else Tuesday morning. Then you've got the Power 36 on NCAA.com and March Madness. Of course, look for our Skypes throughout the course of the week. Team of the week was Iowa. Player of the week, Makai Mason from Baylor. And on Wednesday, I'll be with the selection committee. We'll see what we can find out as we get ready for a bracket release on Saturday that I'll have after the top 16 of the selection committee. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Andy Katz for March Madness and NCAA.com.